Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. We have a really interesting video ahead of us, as you can see in the title and the thumbnail. We're going to go through Paris Saint-Germain players and the previous clubs they have been to. So yesterday on the podcast, when we were talking, I went to this website. It's called Sporkle. I will leave the link down below. And this is like a quiz website. Search for PSG and I found this. PSG squad career paths. So we'll go through every single player, what club they've been to, some interesting names, and there are obviously some clubs I don't know about. So let's go through 61. I should get at least 50. Shouldn't be that hard. First one is Gianluigi Donnarumma. The first club, obviously, that will give me some, I don't know, 20 points at least, is PSG, 25 points. Very easy. Obviously, all of these players have played at Paris Saint-Germain. You know what? Let's zoom in a bit. Let's do that. Donnarumma obviously played at AC Milan, came through the academy. They're 16 years of age as the starting goalkeeper at AC Milan. And, you know, if he didn't leave the way he left, he would have been a small legend, a petite legend, because he came through the academy and was still impactful for AC Milan during a very turbulent season and was part of that Scudetto winning AC Milan side. So Donnarumma, AC Milan, everybody knows that. Achraf Hakimi, Paris Saint-Germain. We bought him obviously from Inter Milan, and he was insane at Inter Milan for those 2 seasons, playing as a fullback. Then when he came to Paris Saint-Germain, started playing in a 4 at the back, but wasn't used in the best way. Then Luis Enrique came in and was like, look, we have this baller in our squad. Look how he performed for Inter. Let's get the best out of him. And ever since Lucius came in, Hakimi has been the best right back in the world. And he was really great at Inter Milan, but still very respectful. Obviously scored the first goal in the Champions League final. The first goal Paris Saint-Germain scored in a Champions League final. But he held his hands up because of respect. Respect to Achraf Hakimi. The club he played obviously before that was Dortmund. And I want to give a shout out to Real Madrid. That was, you know, a great loan spell. I don't know why they didn't keep him. I understand they had Carvajal at that point, but Hakimi is extremely versatile, can even play on the wing. Very stupid decision, in my opinion, from Real Madrid looking back on it. But he was really good in Borussia Dortmund. Mostly played as a winger rather than like an actual fullback, and had a great relationship with the Dortmund players. And obviously the club he came through the academy was Real Madrid. Achraf Hakimi came through the Real Madrid academy, won the UCL in 16-17, I believe. Maybe 17-18, the blue-white, maybe 17-18, when Madrid beat Liverpool. Obviously, Madrid didn't care about him, and that's why Hakimi doesn't care about them. Next up is Preston Kimpembe, obviously from the academy, has always been at Paris Saint-Germain. Nothing's going to change that. But he will obviously move on this season, thankfully. Next up is Marquinhos. He was obviously at Paris Saint-Germain, was bought in from AS Roma, where I don't know that much about what Marquinhos did at Roma, but we bought him for 31 million in 2013, and he was like very young, very unexperienced. That just shows the immense talent Marquinhos had back in the day, and was the reason Paris Saint-Germain bought him. And we were not the only club in for him. Many clubs were in for him, but we managed to get Marquinhos. Obviously, the club he came through, I believe, academy was Corinthians. Not that much to say, but yeah, he came through the Corinthians academy. Next up is Kvaratskhelia. This is going to be more of a difficult one. Well, obviously, you know the first club he was at, Napoli. The first European club Kvaratskhelia joined, and he was sensational. The first season he had Serie A MVP, wins Napoli the Serie A for the first time in like 40 years, ever since Maradona was there. Incredible season. He was also very good in the Champions League, with Napoli reaching the quarterfinals. And yeah, I mean, his time in Napoli, not that long, but every single Napoli fan will remember Kvaratskhelia basically as a Napoli legend, because he did the unthinkable. Came in from Rubin Kazan, if I'm 100%. No, he did not come in from Rubin Kazan. So that was a club he played at before, which I knew about. That was actually not the first club he was at. I know that before that, it's some Georgian clubs. I'm not, maybe something Tbilisi? Nope. Is it Tbilisi? Tbilisi? All right. I have no clue the club he played between Rubin Kazan and Napoli. I thought Rubin Kazan was the club Napoli bought him from. It's probably some other Russian club. I have no clue. Moving on to Fabian Ruiz. We'll come back to Khvicha. Moving on to Fabian Ruiz, as you can see, when I put in Napoli for Kvara, I automatically put it for Fabian Ruiz. He was obviously there for 4 years after a great time in Spain with the under-20s and so on. And his time at Napoli, the first 2 years were really good for Napoli. And then the last 2 years, it went down a bit. And that's why Paris Saint-Germain managed to get him for a cheap price, around like 25 million euros. But Fabian's stint at Napoli was still good. And obviously before that, he was at Real Betis, absolutely cooking for Kiki Saint-Etienne at that point, who obviously later became the FC Barcelona manager. But I don't know what club he was out on loan in 2017. It doesn't make any... Why would Betis loan basically their best or one of their best players out in 2017? That makes no sense. Moving on to Goncalo Ramos. Obviously, very easy. He's only played at one club, and that was Benfica. He was obviously he came through the Benfica academy. Then when Darwin Núñez was sold, Goncalo Ramos took that striker position, had a really good season, like 20 plus goals. Was good for Benfica in the Champions League, with them reaching round of 16, I think. They lost to Inter Milan, but they beat Club Brugge. But yeah, that's Goncalo Ramos. Ousmane Dembele, obviously the previous club he was at, it's the most well-known here. FC Barcelona, 6 years. Was not successful, both in terms of individually and collectively. Barca, that was probably... definitely the worst period Barca has been in, in the past 20 years, maybe even in their history. Dembele was there, injuries hampered him, and many difficult stuff. Yes, you can blame on his focus, and he could have done more and so on, but it was still a good... not that good. They bought him for 115 million to replace Neymar, and he left for 25 million euros and wins Paris Saint-Germain's first Champions League and Ballon d'Or. He was obviously at Borussia Dortmund only for one season, but everyone remembers that season because he was so electric and was the reason Barca splashed that much money for him. And obviously the previous club he was at was Stade de Rennes, coming through the academy. Special player Ousmane Dembele was a Stade de Rennes, and the reason why Borussia Dortmund bought him immediately. Next up is another Rennes player, Desiree Doué. Obviously came through the Rennes Academy as well. Was good for Stade de Rennes in the Europa League and some Ligue 1 games. And then came to Paris Saint-Germain. Next up is Vitinha. Vitinha, obviously, very easy. The first club, Porto, only played there. So he was at Porto, then went to Wolves on loan, and then it came back. But in his last season at Porto, before joining Paris Saint-Germain, he was the young player of the season in Liga NOS, and was part of the Liga NOS team of the season as well. But as you can see in the thumbnail as well, he played one season at Wolves on loan. It did not go well, but he made his mentality stronger. Next up is Kangin Lee, and he obviously, the club we bought him for was Mallorca. Kangin Lee was really good at Mallorca. I remember he was the best dribbler in La Liga that season, by far Mallorca's best player. And the club he was at previously was Valencia. He's like Kubo. Some South Koreans, they're like taken at a very young age to Spain, and so they get acclimated to that football and so on. Next up is Lucas Hernandez. We obviously know what club we bought him for. Bayern München. He was there for 4 years, won the treble, came in for a hefty price, went away with a treble. I think they bought him for like 75 million, 80 million, one of the most expensive defenders of all time. They still got good enough money, around 50 million, to leave. And obviously, the club he came through the academy was Atletico Madrid. And he was really good there, solid defender. That's where he started to play for the France national team. And he was part of that 2018 World Cup squad. Steny Mayulu came through the Paris Saint Academy. No question marks there. Nuno Mendes, obviously we know, Sporting Lisbon. That's where Nuno Mendes came through the academy. Ballerino, absolute ballerino Nuno Mendes was really good, promising young talent, and that's where we heard Nuno Mendes from Sporting Lisbon, from that Wonder Kid like YouTube account or something. But yeah, Nuno Mendes was really good at Sporting, and the reason we bought him. But Adi Barcola, a very recent one. It's obviously Lyon, came through the academy. Still difficult to imagine that, but Adi Barcola went straight from Lyon to Paris Saint-Germain. Not many players do that, especially with the relationship between Textor and Paris Saint-Germain, but it just shows the willingness Barcola had to join Paris Saint-Germain, rejecting all other clubs that tried to go in for him. Warren Zaire-Emery, obviously, came through the academy, only being at PSG. Lucas Beraldo, obviously, was at Sao Paulo. What am I doing? Sao Paulo, Lucas Beraldo, born for a cheeky price. Safanov Krasnodar. In Russia, obviously, we bought him very recently. These are easy to win. We have 1 minute left. We got to be quick here. Yoram Zag, obviously, only from the academy. Ibrahim Mbaya, only from the academy. João Neves, as you can see, Benfica already being written down. 2 seasons at Benfica. was enough to tell the world he's the best young midfield talent in the world. Arnaud Tenas, obviously, through the Barca Academy. We have William Pacho. I will only know one club, which is Frankfurt, where we bought him from. And as you can see, he only played one season at Frankfurt, made the move to PSG, and then is the best centre-back in the world. Absolute baller. And unfortunately, I do not know the two clubs Pacho played before. It's most definitely Ecuadorian clubs. Maybe the 22-23 is more of a lesser European known side, but we don't know about it. Fabian Ruiz, I really don't know this loan club. And Khvicha, this is definitely a Russian club. I think he moved from Rubin Kazan and then to Napoli. And then these are some Georgian clubs. Let's give up. Let's see. Dinamo Tbilisi. Tbilisi. So there's no I between the T and the B. All right. Dinamo Batumi. Wow, I did not know that. Cheeky. Lokomotiv Moscow, Rostavi. All right. Elche. Wow. Fabian went to loan to Elche in 2017. I had no clue about that. Last name by William Pacho, Royal Antwerp in Belgium, and Independente del Valle. This was a really interesting video to know, showcasing my knowledge and, learning some new stuff. Fabian Ruiz was loaned to Elche, and yeah, Khvicha did not come immediately from Rubin Kazan, but it was Dinamo Batumi. Where is this club from? I've never heard this name before. Dinamo Batumi. Euruvina Liga. Okay, it's the Georgian league. Is this the best league? Dinamo Tbilisi. Wow, so he was in Russia and then went back to Georgia. Interesting. And then, William Pacho, Ecuador. And as I said, a lesser well-known club in Europe. But yeah, that's been it. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully, you learned something from before you watched this video until now. That's been it from boy PS Gent. And as usual, allez, Paris.